Hi, I'm Linda from neartozero.com and welcome. Thank you for joining me for our first lesson from our e-course called Learning from COVID-19 to Create a More Sustainable Life. In this course, we are going to be finding ways that we can come through this pandemic and form a more sustainable life for us going forward. But in this particular lesson, we are going to start by analyzing your habits. So first I want to talk about what is going on right now. A lot of us have noticed there's lower emissions, less pollution. Of course, that all comes from the fact that we aren't traveling nearly as much. Either we're not going to and from the office every day in our car, we're not taking the train or public transportation, and a lot of us are simply not able to fly or take vacations or even travel for work. Another thing that we're noticing is that there's a lot of less spending. When we can't go and hang out at the mall, we're not spending nearly as much money. A lot of us also are maybe saving some of our money, due to the fact that some of us might be unemployed for the time being or furloughed. There's a lot of things that are going on economically that might also cause us to be spending less money. Another major thing that I have noticed, at least in my personal life and, speaking to some friends, is that a lot of people are buying more packaged foods in order to, maintain a food supply that isn't going to go bad, and so we can stretch out our time for, in between grocery shops. So that is one thing that I have noticed as well. And when you go to the grocery store, a lot of us are not even allowed to bring in our reusable bags, and so therefore we are forced to use the single-use plastic bags. Of course, in this case, it is to protect grocery workers, people going to the grocery store, and ourselves. So in this case, our health is obviously the most important thing to keep in mind, but it's not necessarily a habit that I want to continue going forward after the pandemic. As you can tell, some of these changes are positive. Some of these changes are not as positive in terms of our environmental impact. However, I want you to keep in mind that these changes are absolutely temporary. And as soon as, stay-at-home orders lift in most places, we're going to find that those lower emissions, that less pollution, is going to, revert back to its original levels. So what can we do in order to, keep those positive changes going forward? So today, this is what we are learning. Today, I want to teach you to start analyzing your personal habits to determine those that you want to develop, maybe ones that you don't have yet, ones that you want to keep, or ones that you want to change after the pandemic. So let's think about not just, general habits like, the fact that there's less pollution going on because of the less traveling, but I want you to think about your personal habits. We have had to change a lot in our personal habits, like not taking your reusable bags to the grocery store, like not going into the office every day. Maybe you were used to going out to dinner more often and you're not able to do that anymore. So there's a lot of things in our personal lives that have changed because of this pandemic. And some of those changes are positive. For example, in my life, I've noticed I'm spending a lot more time with my family. Maybe that's something that is not sustainable in the long term for the amount of time I'm spending with my family, with my daughter not at school, for example. But that's still a positive change that I can keep in the forefront of my mind going forward, that I could say, hey, I really enjoyed the times when I was spending with my family. Another thing, people are making a lot of their own bread, baking, and spending time in the kitchen, getting creative. And that's a great way that you can continue on, spreading some of those positive habits that you developed during this time. Some of those changes, of course, have been negative. Not seeing anybody is one of those habits that we've built into our life right now that I don't particularly want to continue. Another one is, like I said, using a lot of disinfecting wipes, using the disposable bags at the grocery store, things like that that we are using to protect our health right now, but is not something that I would necessarily want to continue doing in terms of building a sustainable life. But again, we have to keep in mind that these are all temporary habits, even the good ones. So in order for us to maintain that and to keep that going, we really need to make sure that we are focusing and trying to maintain the habits we want and actively working to change the habits we don't want. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to write a list of your personal habit changes. What are those habits that have changed for you personally? Maybe you never went to eat out at dinner at a restaurant, so this hasn't changed that habit for you. So what habits have changed for you personally? And then we are going to sort those habits into positive and negative habits. So I want you to take a pause. Take a moment, stop the video if you need to, and I want you to work on your list. One thing I will suggest is that you can use whatever journal or anything else you would like, but if you would also like, we have created a PDF for you called How Have My Habits Changed? And if you sign up for that on the website, you will get that in your email. So go ahead and just take a moment, take a pause, think about what your habits were that have changed. What is different in your life? Think about things that have personally changed in the way that you behave, in the way that you interact with people, in the products that you use. All of those changes, write them down. Try to think about good changes in your life. Think about which changes have been negatively impacting your life, whether that is your impact on the environment or your personal happiness and well-being, things that you don't want to maintain after this pandemic. And so you might be asking, now what? Now what do we do? Okay, now that you've made your list, you took your pause, I want you to look over what you have written on your list. I really want you to internalize those changes. And I want you to pick 2 or 3 to focus on, maybe 2 positive, 2 negative, or 2 and 1, or whatever it is. But I want you to pick a couple of habits on your list that have changed that you can focus on. And over the next week or so, I want you to keep adding to your list. Maybe put a star or circle the ones that, again, that you want to focus on, that you think have been the most impactful, both positively and negatively in your life, so that you can actively try to either maintain those habits or actively try and change them once this, very unusual situation is over. And in the next videos, we are going to talk about those habits a little bit more deeply, which ones that we can keep, which new habits we can develop right now, and which ones we're just going to let go after this COVID-19 is over, after the stay-at-home is over. So I wanted to give you one quick tip that you can hold on to before the next video. Besides keeping track of all of your habits that are changing, I want you to remember to check your power. Now that we're home a lot more, we're likely using a lot more power, especially now that it's starting to get pretty hot. Here where I live, it's getting pretty warm, and I can tell a lot of people are running their AC units a lot more and so forth. So this is a time where we really want to check our power. We had a power outage last night, actually, in the middle of the night, so that makes me feel like, there's a lot of strain on our power usage. But simple things, remember to turn off your lights when you're not in the room. Wash your clothes in cold water if you can, because using hot water actually is a big drain on our power that in our households that maybe we don't even think about. Hang dry your clothes if possible. Again, your dryer is a big source of power. Use sunlight more often if you can. Try to open a fan. Open the fan. Open a window or turn on the fan before you use your air conditioner, if that's possible. So I wanted you to keep those sort of tips in mind that you can. Maybe that's a new habit that you can add to your list as well. And thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video. Thank you so much for your participation in this first lesson of our course on how to create a more sustainable life coming out of this pandemic. And I hope to see you next time here, and keep an eye out in your email. Sign up for the email if you haven't already, or come back to the website anytime to see what else is available here on neartozero.com. Thank you.